So this is part two of my horror film, well, retrospective, I guess. We're looking over old horror movies, not so old in some cases, but picking up from part one anyway. I'll just jump straight into it. So, Night of the Comet. This is an Arrow Blu-ray, as I spoke about in the last video. If you see this kind of mark at the bottom of a film and this as well, pretty much a seal of quality, because Arrow really do tidy up movies and they put a lot of effort into extra features as well. Night of the Comet is a 1980s movie. It's kind of a female lead thing, back when that meant something, whereas now it's all about making political statements and so on that kind of don't really stand up to scrutiny. But this at the time was pretty good, and I'd give it a watch. Night of the Creeps. This is a Eureka title, it's like Arrow, similar sort of thing. They put a lot of effort into their Blu-rays, and you get a lot of extra features, and the quality is very good. Now, Night of the Creeps was directed by a guy called Fred Decker, who only did a few movies, but the ones that he did were quite good, apart from maybe RoboCop 3, that pretty much marked the end of his directing movies. He recently wrote the new Predator movie, which was a big letdown as well. So Fred Decker has been hit and miss, but in cases where he's done some good stuff, it has been very good. This, you're probably wondering what this is, another Fred Decker movie. This is The Monster Squad. I was struggling to get this on Blu-ray, so I got this import of it. I suggest if you want this on Blu-ray, get this version. It plays just fine. There's no forced subtitles, and the language is obviously in English as an option. So this is basically a movie about... there's the creature from the Black Lagoon, there's Frankenstein's monster, there's Dracula, but they're not named that, I think, for like copyright reasons or legal reasons. They have kind of similar generic characters like that in the film. But it's a kids' movie, really. Similar to in the last video I was talking about The Gate, how it's a horror movie, and it's pretty bad as well, pretty scary, but it was for kids. Bizarre, really, that they went in that direction. Anyway, so Return of the Living Dead, which was it's got kind of a cult classic, really. It's not connected as such to George Romero's Dawn of the Dead and all that kind of stuff, but I think it was one of the guys that owned the rights when they did Night of the Living Dead, the original movie. I can't remember his name now, but it was basically a case where the owner got to make this movie and sort of tie it in genre-wise with the George Romero movie. It's a bit of a complicated thing to explain, but it's an okay film about zombies. Return of the Living Dead Part 2 isn't really a direct sequel. It's got some recurring actors playing similar characters, but the characters themselves are different. Very confusing anyway. So, Zombie Nosh, I talked about this one in one of the last videos, so I'll shut up about that. Night of the Living Dead colorized version, quite interesting. Now, a few years ago, when I first started the channel in 2013, I talked about all the George Romero Dead movies, but I think since then I've kind of improved my collection, so let's cover this. So, there's the colorized version, digitally remastered in color. It's interesting. I've got this steelbook of Night of the Living Dead. Again, it's the original George Romero film, and this is the DVD, and it's got a load of decent extra features in it. It came in this tin box. Got a bit of nostalgia for this and sentimentality, so I've kept this because I have since upgraded to a Blu-ray of this film, which I will get to in a moment. Dawn of the Dead on DVD. I think the reason I've kept the DVD for this is because of some extra features. I think it was the Dead Will Walk documentary. I think that was the reason why I kept this. It wasn't on some of the other stuff that I've got. I could be wrong though, actually. I better check into that. Might have that on my shelf unnecessarily. This is the Trilogy of the Dead, so it's Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead on DVD, and it's got some really good extra features on there, which is why I've kept it, and it's got some documentaries on a bonus disc as well. Again, I got a bit of nostalgia and sentimentality towards this DVD set as well, so I've kept it. Night of the Living Dead, this is the remake, which came out in like 1990, directed by Tom Savini, who did makeup effects and starred in Dawn of the Dead, as well as a few other horror films. A bit of a horror film legend, to be honest. He directed this, kind of under the supervision, I guess, of George Romero, so it belongs on your shelf with these. Dawn of the Dead, an honourable remake of the original. So this was directed by Zack Snyder in, was it 2003? I believe there's a sequel, direct sequel to this coming out as well. That'll be interesting to see. I'm not a big fan of this film in comparison to the others, but it's okay. It's an honourable remake, so, good on them. As I say, Night of the Living Dead has a Blu-ray release, which was the Criterion Collection, which really, really did a good job with this. It was amazing how good quality this was. I know it's black and white, but I guess that means that it can be sharper because you're not getting the colours washing out the picture when it's remastered properly, and they did such a good job with this. I think I paid quite a lot for this as well. It was like £18 or something, but I think recently it was on offer on Amazon, so maybe check that out. This is the Dawn of the Dead 4K Blu-ray set, which I got from Italy, imported over. I don't think you can currently get this film on 4K, although I believe it's in the works in the UK or America. But I recommend this set. It's got loads of different versions on there. I don't know if you can see all this, but those are the specifics. Quite expensive though. You've got to be a hardcore fan really to fork out for it. But I am a hardcore fan, so I like even the Blu-ray, which because I think the 4K version is the Dario Argento cut only. But the standard Blu-ray is also very, very good for this, so well worth buying. Even if you don't have a 4K player, still worth getting. Buff, if you're watching this, I don't know if you've got this yet or if you're waiting for the 4K version, but if it doesn't work out, there is this as an option. I recommend it. Day of the Dead, this is another Arrow, this is an earlier Arrow box, because you can see it kind of opens there a little bit, and the main Blu-ray slides out. Very good remaster of this film. I did get an imported Blu-ray about a year or so ago, and it was pretty much the same as DVD quality. I was a bit annoyed about that, but then I spotted this for £20 in CEX, so I snapped it up. I like Day of the Dead. I think it's on a par with Dawn of the Dead. A lot of people might disagree with that, but whatever. Land of the Dead, that was 2005. That was George Romero's return to the franchise. He got it on Blu-ray. It's a bit more of a higher production quality, given that Universal, the studio, had some input in this. So it feels aesthetically a bit different to others, but I liked it, to be honest. Some people didn't, but I did. Diary of the Dead was a bit more of an independent sequel, so that came out a couple of years after Land of the Dead. I think it was like 2007 or 8-ish. It's kind of not found footage, but documentary style, and it's based on the night when everything went down, possibly the same night as the Night of the Living Dead, I guess. Continuity is a bit weird if you look at it that way, but it's okay, but it goes downhill. Survival of the Dead, I thought was a bit of a letdown, to be fair. Not a big fan of that, but that was George Romero's 6th and last film in this franchise. I think he was going to be working on Road of the Dead. That was announced back in 2017 in the summer, but George Romero passed away shortly after the announcement. I don't think he was ever going to direct it anyway. I think he was just producing it, putting his name to it. But it would have been interesting anyway. Shaun of the Dead, good film. What is there to say? You've probably already seen it. Regarded as one of the best British comedies ever. And if you like zombie films, you'll like it. This is an interesting box set. It's not particularly horror, to be honest. It's a box set called Between Night and Dawn. Now, what does that mean? Basically, between Night of the Living Dead in, was it 68? And Dawn of the Dead in 78? I can't remember what years they were. George Romero did 3 films, and I don't think they were really completed as such. But these were the 3 films. There was The Crazies, which got a remake recently. Well, 10 years ago. Season of the Witch, which isn't connected to any other film of that name, because there's a couple of films called that. And There's Always Vanilla. Now, these aren't really horror movies. Maybe The Crazies is a little bit. But if you like George Romero and just the general sort of filmmaking style that he had, it's worth getting. It cost me about £40 did this. It was quite expensive, and it is an Arrow release. But it was interesting. I have no regrets buying it, and you get this booklet as well, which is pretty good. There's a bit of third-wave feminist propaganda in some of the writing in this book that you get with it, but whatever. If you can kind of filter that out, it's okay. There's the remake of The Crazies, which I liked. I actually think this is better than the original. Timothy Olyphant was in this. He's very good in it as well, so give that a watch. It's about kind of a virus outbreak, very similar to the original one. 28 days and weeks later, again, sort of outbreak, kind of zombie-like movies. You've probably already seen them, so what is it to say? Some people have complained about the Blu-ray, about the quality of it, and said it's not worth getting. That's because that's how the film was shot. You are seeing the film how it was shot. It was filmed with very cheap cameras because Danny Boyle wanted a certain aesthetic to the movie. Putting it in high definition isn't going to change that. So I don't know what people are complaining about. So whatever. Zombieland, pretty much a very popular one. It's had a sequel recently. I'm hoping to see that maybe in cinemas in the next couple of weeks if I get a chance, because it's currently out at the moment, so I should probably get off my ass. World War Z with Brad Pitt. It's okay. I've watched it a couple of times since it came out. Some people hated it. I thought it was okay. I realised there's a big comparison to the book. People who read the book were let down by the movie. Whatever, it is what it is. I thought they were working on a sequel to that, but I don't know if that's still on anymore. I think that might have been cancelled. ReAnimator, based on H.P. Lovecraft's story, kind of about zombies, I guess. Really good film anyway, cult classic. Definitely check that out. And its 2 sequels are pretty decent as well. Difficult to get on Blu-ray, but it can be done. These are umbrella titles that came out under that banner. So you've got Bride of ReAnimator and Beyond ReAnimator. I can't remember which one it was, but one of these has like sound issues to it, like a really distorted sound issue. You can get, I think it was Bride of ReAnimator, I think that was the one that was a bit dodgy. You can get it individually, so I might actually rebuy that because the sound distortion on that was pretty bad, to be honest. From Beyond, this is a film I always remember seeing the VHS in a local video rental place back in the 80s when I was really young, and it used to look really scary. I never got around to watching this film until this year. Same director and cast pretty much as ReAnimator, and it's again based on H.P. Lovecraft work. Really interesting film. Give it a watch anyway. People Under Stairs, that's a Wes Craven classic. Again, Arrow Video, they did a good job with this. Give that a watch. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's kind of not haunted house kind of thing. Not really haunted, but just kind of not even zombies. I'm not going to ruin it, to be honest, because there's a bit of surprises in there. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's good. The Scream movies, I'm sure you're all aware of those. The first 2 are very good. Third one I wasn't a big fan of. It was okay, but it's kind of getting up its own arse at that point. Scream 4 came out after about 10 years after Scream 3, and I was told not to watch it because I was told it was shite. It's actually pretty good, to be fair. I liked it. Not as good as first 2, though. Nightmare on Elm Street remake, I haven't watched that yet. I was going to do some horror film remake reviews this Halloween, but I just never got around to watching some of these remakes, so I can't really do that this year. Nightmare on Elm Street box set. These are all the movies excluding Freddy vs. Jason, which I've got here on DVD. Paul Cage gave me all of the Friday the 13th movies a couple of years ago and asked me to do a review. I watched them all. I'm not a big fan of them, to be honest. Some of them are okay, some of them just repeat what came before. And there's too many of them, basically, to do that. If it was a franchise of about 4 movies, like Scream, that'd be one thing, but they just kept churning it out. So they're okay, though, but it's probably my lesser favourite of the Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers trio of boogeymen. I think Jason is probably my least favourite. But Nightmare on Elm Street, the Blu-ray set is pretty good anyway. For some reason, this one hasn't got anything written on the spine of it. I think Paul Cage, I think your wife Lucy might have done some silly work with a marker pen there because she's etched it off. She thinks things like that are funny. Anyway, Evil Dead movies. I've spoken about these on the channel before, but this is the trilogy box set with the 3 films on there. Very good. This year, Evil Dead 2 had a 4K re-release, so I recommend that. I got that and watched it. It's good quality as you expect. Evil Dead Book of the Dead, I've spoken about this on the channel before, but it's this is the DVD, and it's the actual Book of the Dead, and the disc is in there. There is Ash vs. Evil Dead on Blu-ray. There's 3 series of this, and they were pretty good. I'm not a big fan of when TV shows get spun off from movie franchises, but this was very well done, very respectful to the original movies. And then we've got, maybe not so much horror, but it's Sam Raimi, I guess, and I can't get the thing out easily, but Darkman. This is a Darkman trilogy. First film was with Liam Neeson, and the second film's had Arnold Vosloo playing the Peyton Westlake character in this. Pretty good, though. Even the sequels, like I say, this was in the early to mid-90s, and back when straight-to-video sequels and videos kind of meant something. But there you go. That's part 2. there's another shelf of horror movies going downwards, so I'm going to knock this one on the head. So part 3 is coming up shortly. Thank you very much.